Welcome to episode number 9 of the Sports File, a 35-year reboot. Today's topics will include a breakdown of Bo Nix and his first mandatory mini camp that he just went through. We'll recap the Boston Celtics claiming their 18th championship in the NBA. Take a look into the first week of Euro 2024. And then finally, we'll end up talking a little bit about Newport Beach, California. All right, topic number 1, the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix. Boy, I'm reading an article, read an article rather, from the Athletic from Nick Kosmider, and it's really about Bo Nix and how it's going in his off-season program, right? Gist of the article is his maturity level, right? They're saying his maturity level is really top notch. It's you can really see that you're getting a guy who's 24 years old, owns certain things. There was a play in the last mini camp here with Philip Dorsett. He went one way, the ball went the other. Instantly Bo Nix walks down and looks at Philip and says, "Look, that's on me," pointing to his chest, right? Total leadership, command of the offense. Broncos offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, I think, noted at the end of the mini camp that the rookie quarterback doesn't make the same mistake twice very often. And so what they're showing you is, and what the message is getting out there is what we've talked about, right? Is Bo Nix, I think at this point, needs to be named the starting quarterback. I don't think there's any sort of question about it. I think why take that off the plate of everybody and roll with this guy. You did draft him at 12, make him your starter, and go with it. But what they're saying is also with him is because of his age and because of where we've talked about, he was in college football for 5 years, first at Auburn and then at Oregon to finish it out, that he's played 61 games, which is a ton of experience, right? And what they're saying is, with all of this experience now, he's seen an awful lot, right? And so he has this certain calmness about him because he's had the experience, he's had the snaps, he's played in all these games. And what they were saying, what Joe was saying, was that he certainly doesn't feel like a rookie, right? And so I think what they're really trying to do now is reaffirm, what they have, right? All of the messaging really coming out of the Broncos is how much they really love this new quarterback room, right? They are going out of their way to talk about it. Sean Payton talks about it. Davis Webb, the QB coach, talks about it now, about essentially how much he loves working with these three guys. And boy, this is a direct shot at Russell Wilson. It really does make you wonder. Russell Wilson must have just been just not a great teammate whatsoever, because this messaging has completely flipped. Where you really didn't hear a whole lot out of, it was sort of, I think, underlying issue like Peyton was going to try to fix Russell Wilson, but he never spoke glowingly like he has since he's drafted him. And then you're really hearing it from really the heads of the offense, right? You've got the quarterback coach, Davis Webb, speaking glowingly about the quarterback room and Bo Nix. You got Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator, and Sean Payton all saying the same thing, right? What they're saying is also his ability to process this hefty portion of the playbook, right? He's already sort of up to speed where a lot of these players now are in year 2, right? And he's rolling with it, and really grasping what they're trying to do with the installation of the offense right now. And what Peyton sort of said at the end of minicamp too is where they're going through. They've had to install an awful lot of stuff in a short period of time for both Zach Wilson and Bo. And he goes, realistically in the season, you spent a week on one plan. Here we're moving. Although, overall, though, it's what we saw when we evaluated Nix, and that is what is encouraging. Again, the messaging coming out of how much he likes Bo Nix, there's no question this is Sean Payton's guy, right? He had, I think, to end their mini camp, a mandatory mini camp that they had, he essentially canceled day 3 of it and sent them home. And I'll leave you with this as we wrap this up too, is with Davis Webb. We have a good room. We really do. And they're all meshing well together. That's exciting because competition sometimes gets dicey. So he nailed it in the first meeting, saying that's not going to happen here. We're all going to be rooting each other on. I mean, I know we've talked. I just spoke about this a couple minutes ago, but man, they did not like Russell Wilson. And this is so clear. And also, he goes on to further talk about, Webb says further on about this, is that we don't want check down Charlies. We want to be aggressive down the field. And if it's not there, we want to keep moving forward. I, we've talked a lot about Russell Wilson, how he was the check down guy, how first read doesn't see it, he makes a move and runs. Davis Webb is just really throwing grenades out there about Russell Wilson at this point. If you read through this, it's not great. And so I hate to pile on with old Russ because I was such a fan of him. But the more he was around here, this guy just does not seem like a great guy at all. And so I think it's sort of refreshing to hear the coaching staff coming out and talking so much about this. But it is amazing when you really think about it, is that what they like with Bo Nix and all their quarterbacks right now versus what they had for last year. Topic number 2, the Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics roll, beat the Dallas Mavericks 4-1 to capture their record-breaking 18th NBA World Championship. Talked about it in previous episodes of the pod around this was my childhood team. This was definitely the team I root for. I am super happy about the Celtics winning. If the Nuggets can't win it, I'm always going to root for the old Celts, dating back to when I was a kid in the 80s, rooting on Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, etc. This team, really, really deep, really strong. I think what came down to is they just played lights out. Their depth was tremendous. Tatum, Jaylen Brown, who went on to capture the MVP for the finals. You've got Derek White. You've got Drew Holiday, Porzingis before he got hurt. They're just super deep, and it showed they didn't even really need Porzingis, and they still rolled and beat the Mavs. The Mavs, really, what it came down to is they had Luka. Kyrie Irving decided not to show up for some reason. I don't know if there's something in his head about being a former Celtic for that failed experiment, spending about a season and a half there. It just not a great series for Kyrie, which was super disappointing to see. I think the Celtics showed that they're by far and away the best team in the East right now, and clearly they're the best team in the NBA. They've been expected to win. They were in the finals last year versus the Nuggets. They're back to the finals again, and I don't see why not they wouldn't be in the finals again next year. They just really deep, strong, got contenders in the West. I think the West, maybe might be a slightly overhyped when we think about it. Everybody talks about, the West is so much better than the East. I don't know. I mean, the West is stacked. It really is. When you think about, you've got the Nuggets, you've got the Mavericks, you've got the Timberwolves, you've got OKC that's coming up now. The Lakers are always sort of, are they in, are they out? It looks like they're getting ready to finally name a head coach. You've got Clippers that are always tough. So there are teams that are out there that are pretty good in the West and very competitive, but the East is really, it's the Celtics, and then there's a huge gap with everybody else. And maybe the Knicks would be challenging next year. But the Boston Celtics, congrats on a great series, and awesome for capturing your 18th World Championship. I will say this, and this is a side note. I've talked a lot how I love Colin Cowherd, and I love the Herd, and I pretty much watch it daily. That's my quote-unquote lunch break, flipping through it real quick, and then I end up watching the rest of it at night. And I think Colin and Jason McIntyre are just a great team on there now. Really, really been tremendous since they added Jason McIntyre. Not to say Joy and Christine weren't great, but Jason, I think, really brings it to the next level. But J-Mac had a crazy take. And I love you, J-Mac, but, man, this one was a little out there. He was trying to make the argument, which, if you do watch the television broadcast of the Herd, Colin's face was fairly amusing, because he was basically saying what his facial expressions are saying what I'm going to say, is J-Mac claims that, the 80s Celtics, they were, they were fine. They were whatever. But this team would hold their own against the '80s. I'm thinking, J-Mac, are you out of your mind? Number one, whole different. It's really hard to make these arguments when you go back and forth on who's the best team, who's the greatest team of all time. There's different eras to basketball, different styles of play. '80s basketball, incredibly physical. You go back, go on YouTube, just look up any Detroit Pistons, look up any games from the '80s, and look at how physical the fouls were. There were none of this flagrant one, flagrant two nonsense. Guys were getting clotheslined out there. There were fights breaking out. I mean, there was the infamous fight of, Danny Ainge biting someone, right? Larry Bird was known for really getting in people's faces. He's gotten into many fights, like versus Bill Laimbeer of the Detroit Pistons. I don't know how you can make a statement like he's saying. I mean, on the paper you'd say, well, these Celtics have potentially at least two Hall of Famers right now, right? They've got Tatum and they've got Jaylen Brown, right? They keep going. They'll both be in the Hall of Fame. The '80s Celtics, so when I look back at it, right, this was a team. Let's just take about the mid '80s. You've got Larry Bird. Arguably, people would argue he's 100% a top five player, and people might argue he's the greatest of all time. I don't think so. He was my favorite basketball player personally of all time, but Michael Jordan clearly is the greatest of all time, probably followed by LeBron. And then at that point, I think Larry slots in at number 3. You've also got Kevin McHale, who was one of their forwards, just tremendous. He's in the Hall of Fame as well. Robert Parrish, their center, excellent. He's in the Hall of Fame. You had guys like Danny Ainge and Dennis out there at the guards, and they were just great. You had as a backup, he was older, Bill Walton in the NBA Hall of Fame. That is a loaded team. And then they had role players as well, whether it was Scott Wedman and etc. There were a bunch of other role players that were pretty good. But I think overall, J-Mac, love you. That take is not great. Let's let this play out, dude. Keep up. It was an interesting take, but I don't see it. I think the Celtics, the '80s Celtics, in their prime, would have absolutely destroyed this Celtics team. Mainly because I do think the Celtics team currently is a little soft. We've talked about Jason Tatum disappearing, so I think the '80s Celtics would have easily overtaken this. Topic number 3, the Euro 2024 is kicked off last weekend. We had to follow my team, England. England won their opening game 1-0. Great match by England. England was able to England is absolutely stacked, and I love watching Jude Bellingham now. I know it's one of my other sons, one of his favorite players. It's crazy to think Jude Bellingham is, my twin boys are both 21, and he's actually a few months younger than them, or a few days, I think, rather. Incredible to see what he's doing. Jude Bellingham with a great header from a wonderful cross from Saka to win their first match 1-0. Today they are playing Denmark as I record this on a Thursday. I think they win today again. England could be a little tougher of a matchup, but I do expect England to win today. Some surprising ones that have been out. I think we've already seen. I think Italy is certainly in some sort of a must-win at this point. When we look at the group staging and what has to happen right now, Spain looks pretty good out there. Germany looks really strong. So great. If you get a chance to check out the Euros, we'll do a deeper dive next week. I think we'll spend a lot of time on it. But just a quick hit on the Euros 2024. Kicked off, which is just great to see these soccer players on the world stage representing their countries. You won't see, I think they are in the Olympics, these same countries, but you're not going to see the same players participating in Paris this year at the Olympics. That they'll send kind of their backup or their B teams to play in the Olympics rather than this. But Euro 2024, basically like a mini World Cup, just outstanding tournament. England's looking strong. Cross our fingers that they come out with a win to go up to 2 games in their group stage. Topic number 4, Newport Beach, California, located in Orange County in Southern California. Son goes to school out there at Chapman University. He's actually doing an internship this summer. So he has the opportunity to spend the entire summer out there, living out there. He went out. We went out to visit him. Spent like a long weekend. Went out on a Thursday. Came home on a Sunday night, and ended up coming home actually Monday, due to a canceled flight. Always great to see our kids. He's doing great, and he moved into his new house for the upcoming year, so we kind of got him all settled and situated. He's over in Orange, California, which is a great little place. Can talk a little bit about Orange as well. They have this circle. It's kind of a great college town. Bars, restaurants. They have this circle, kind of a rotary circle in the middle of Old Town Orange, where it's just, they have a huge fountain that they've redone. Orange trees are in the middle of it as well. Cool little park to sit and just kind of people watch. We went to, my wife and I stayed because of a canceled flight at the Richland hotel, which is more like an inn. They only have like 12 rooms. That was really nice. Just opened up, beautiful room. We also had the opportunity to go over to a place called Provisions, which is this cool concept where you kind of walk in and they have a massive refrigerator of all craft beers and different wines as well. And then you can grab some food in the morning or coffee in the morning as well. Had a drink there. Great to sit out on the sidewalk and just sort of people watch on a warm summer night. And then we really stayed over in Newport Beach, which is right on the water there. So you've got just great beaches that are in Newport Beach. They have a great harbor area where you can kind of really you can go boating if you want, you can rent boats there, which is an item that we're probably going to do the next time we're out there. And then kind of putt around the harbor there. Huge harbor, like I said, and they have like an island called Balboa Island, which these huge, massive homes. Great restaurants. They have like the restaurant Nobu for if you like Japanese and sushi. Nobu's the spot to go to. Malibu Farms Restaurant is next door to it. That little area is called Lido. Cute little area, shops, bars, restaurants. Totally check it out. We stayed I would say about 7 minutes away from that area down near the harbor at a place called the Vea. It's a Marriott property. It's an old famous hotel called the Vea that was built in the 60s. Was recently renovated 2 years ago, and it is beautiful. They have an awesome like lobby hangout type area, huge lobby area with couches and chairs and a coffee shop. These big doors that push wide open. The doors themselves were probably 15 feet tall with glass, so you kind of open that all up so you get this indoor-outdoor space. Rooms, totally updated, state-of-the-art, tons of plugs. All of us kind of crashed in one room, so it was my two boys and my wife and I, so 2 queen beds there, plenty of room. Great little pool area, I would say. Pool area is a trip when you get out there. It is the land of plastic surgery by far. That is my one downside of Newport Beach, is watching these 20-something-year-olds that are doing stuff to their bodies, to each their own. But man, oh man, you were pretty enough to start with. What are you doing? So the pool area is great. They have little cabanas, great chairs, great pool service. They get you all set up. They have a bar/restaurant at the end of it that kind of looks out at this golf course called Newport Beach Country Club. Pretty private course, but you can kind of watch some golfers go by. You're set up on almost like a cliff area, and it looks down when you're up high enough, especially in the room, you can totally see the water off in the distance, the harbor area that we talked about. That was cool to see. And great views. The weather was just perfect. They get what they call a marine layer. It's like a term they've made up out there in California. Growing up on the East Coast along the water in Massachusetts, we were used to it. I'd known it as like early morning clouds that would burn off. That's exactly what the marine layer is. But it would burn off fairly early. I think the last day, in fact, it burned off super early. By 9 o'clock in the morning, it had already burned off, and just blue skies the rest of the day. And so we had a really nice time. We did eat at Nobu. I talked about that. If you're there, check it out. My family loves Nobu, so we went there, had some sushi, and had some Japanese food items as well off their hot menu. My son had a spicy snow crab dish that he absolutely loved and ate it all up. We also went over to Boz Cats, which was in downtown Orange. Cool little place. It's an old gas station or garage that they converted into this cool little uh, bar and grill, is basically what it is. Um, it was a great little menu, totally comforting food. They had like steaks and chicken and a couple little pasta dishes and a bunch of sandwiches, burgers, stuff like that. Boz Cats, check it out if you're in Orange. It's right near the Circle area. We also went to this great little coffee place over there as well, called the Coffee Bean, which is sort of famous there. I like it a lot. It's great. They also have Phil's, spelt Philz, Phil's Coffee. Cool little coffee shop, located kind of all through Southern California as well. Great weather. Awesome to see my son and get to spend some time with him. We'll be reunited here in a couple weeks when we go on vacation. And really looking forward to our family trip, which we'll do a deeper dive on in the future pods. So that's it. That was episode number 9 of the Sports File, a 35-year reboot. Please like, comment, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, and I'll talk to you next week.